Good afternoon, Carl Defmaw here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Joining you on this Tuesday afternoon happens to be Earth Day here in Milwaukee. We'll show you a shot of downtown Milwaukee on this Earth Day as we're getting a little bit of everything from Mother Nature. We had a beautiful sunrise this morning, some rain throughout the day as you're seeing those raindrops still on the camera lens, and a bit of a break as well as we get through this draft week as well in the state of Wisconsin. Over the next hour or so, we're going to take you all over the place to the news as it happens here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. That includes, of course, overseas. The news of the world since Monday has been the death of Pope Francis, and you're seeing a live shot there from Rome and from the Vatican City specifically. Some of the people there continuing to mourn and remember the life and legacy of the late pontiff who died Monday morning at the Vatican at the age of 88. While that continues, we're also going to give you an update on the new Milwaukee Public Museum here in downtown Milwaukee. The building for this has been quite an effort, both getting fundraising in place and then the construction that has already started on the new museum, the home of the collections of so many have good memories of the existing museum and what that meant for their education as kids and now into adulthood as well, and what the new place will be like as a destination here in the city of Milwaukee. In the meantime, before that gets going though, we're also going to take you to the White House for the press briefing with the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. This started moments ago, handling a series of questions from reporters in the briefing room. Let's listen in to Caroline Leavitt, the U.S. press secretary at the White House.
I know the president has spoken to a number of folks in big tech and Google CEO was even at his inauguration. I'm curious, what is the president's reaction to that court ruling?
I'll have to ask him, and I'll get back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Some economic questions for you. Kevin Hassett has been a key economic advisor to the president in both of his terms. In 2022...
And he still is.
And he still is.
He was just in my office.
Absolutely. In 2022, he said that the independence of the Fed is super important. That's a direct quote. Is that something that the president subscribes to? Does he still believe in the independence of the Federal Reserve?
Well, look, I think the president has made his position on the Fed and on Powell quite clear. The president believes that they have been making moves and taking action in the name of politics rather in the name of what's right for the American economy. The president has the right to express his displeasure with the Fed, and he has the right to say he believes interest rates should be lower. He believes Americans should be able to borrow money cheaper than they currently are right now. And I also spoke to Kevin Hassett about the Fed as well, and he has called into question the Fed's independence and whether they are actually doing things, again, out of the best interest of the economy, or are they doing it for partisan reasons. The president wants to see interest rates lower. He has made that quite clear.
We've also seen, if I may, I'm sorry, one more, Caroline, just about, I said two economic questions, about the dollar. We've seen the dollar at multi-year lows versus the euro and other currencies around the world. Is it the administration's policy for a strong dollar? How does it view the dollar versus other currencies around the world?
The president wants to see the dollar remain as the world's reserve currency for our long-term fiscal stability and our economic growth. He's been quite clear about that. Sure.
Two questions.
And then to the woman behind you, who I haven't seen before, welcome. Go ahead, Mary.
Earth Day and then the Supreme Court, if that's okay.
That's right. It's Earth Day.
Yes.
Happy Earth Day, everyone.
I saw the president truthing about the garbage pileup from China and the Pacific, and then I believe Lee Zeldin is headed to San Diego to investigate the pile of sewage from Mexico. Can you speak to what the White House has planned for Earth Day and anything in that arena?
Sure. I do have points from the EPA. Administrator Zeldin's doing a fantastic job, and they are always sharing their accomplishments with the White House, which we very much appreciate. He will be traveling. I believe he's in California today for sewage situation. Here you go. Administrator Zeldin met with his Mexican counterpart to discuss steps Mexico needs to take to ensure the water entering the United States is clean and safe. And he's holding a press conference in San Diego today with elected officials and local stakeholders on the Tijuana River sewage crisis. I would also add from the president himself, he has always maintained he wants America to have the cleanest air and the cleanest water. And we want to do what's right for our environment and for our earth. And a lot of that is making sure that we have clean and sustainable energy, and we know that we produce natural gas cleaner and more efficiently than any country in this world, and the president wants to see that continue.
Thank you. And then on the Supreme Court, I know the court is hearing a case dealing with
Well, the press secretary takes a question about Earth Day there. We'll get back to some of the other questions the media has for her momentarily, but wanted to mention something else happening here in Milwaukee on this Earth Day, since it was such a great segue there provided by the media and by the press secretary. Today is the Big Cleanup, as you're getting a live look at some of the efforts and some of the signage for the Big Clean MKE event on this Earth Day. You can see the number there to text cleanup, and a lot of people out and about collecting their buckets, getting ready to go here on this Earth Day in Milwaukee. This is being hosted by a number of people, including Alderman Russell Stamper and West Care, Wisconsin, the Northcott Neighborhood Center, Bader Philanthropies, and more. They're asking anyone in Milwaukee to join the Big Clean MKE cleanup initiatives in your neighborhood and elsewhere on this Earth Day. It's a citywide beautification effort in memory of the Special Enforcement Inspector Greg Ziggy Ziskevich, who lost his life during an attempted carjacking while working for the city of Milwaukee back in 2017. Today is the 8th annual Harambe Cleanup Initiative as well, trying to get people out and about in the Harambe neighborhood to keep their neighborhood litter-free. Both of those annual cleanups, a great way for neighborhood groups, churches, workplaces to join in, and there will be there was a press conference and briefing already today at Pete's Fruit Market there in the Harambe neighborhood off of MLK and North Avenue. There was a DJ, food, and then, of course, the cleanup, as you're seeing folks gathering, and plenty of buckets on hand, along with signage as well, and those little gripper things, trying to make sure that Milwaukee, their goal, both of the cleanups started with a simple goal to make Milwaukee the cleanest city in the country, and only made sense to create partnerships to achieve that goal, said Alderman Stamper in the release for this. They are asking residents to get out, whether it is in the Harambe neighborhood or elsewhere. There were a number of cleanups over the weekend as well, more than 30 different organizations involved in this, of course, leading up to Earth Day today, and even some of the days thereafter. They have more of these cleanups sponsored. And if you're interested, you can volunteer by a number of different methods. Through Earth Day today, all the cleanup tools and supplies, as you're seeing, provided to the volunteers. Many of the cleanup hosts as well will offer a volunteer appreciation lunch during the event. So if you head on out, volunteer, you get a t-shirt, you get a yard sign, you get the satisfaction of knowing you're doing what you can to keep Milwaukee a clean city and try to maintain that and beautify our beautiful city out there. So that continues in the Harambe neighborhood, the Big Clean MKE event on this Earth Day here in Wisconsin. And with that, we'll get you back to the press secretary, see what else the media has for you at the White House on this Tuesday, Earth Day.
Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. We've heard so much about this Saudi trip planning, and the president's mentioned it himself before, but I don't think we've ever heard on the record what he hopes to achieve in Saudi Arabia and what the purpose of the trip is.
Sure. Well, the president looks forward to this. It was supposed to be his first foreign visit, but of course now he is going to Rome this weekend to honor the Pope and attend the funeral. The president looks to strengthen the ties between the United States and these countries in which he will be visiting. He'll be having many bilateral meetings and talks, and we look forward to the trip and hope to see many of you there.
And the meetings in London this week, do they have any nexus with the plans in Saudi Arabia?
I can't speak to that. However, I do have an update on meetings when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. I was just in the Oval Office with the President, Steve Witkoff, and they wanted everybody to know that the negotiations continue. We feel, again, we're hopefully moving in the right direction, and the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, will be heading to Russia again later this week to continue talks with Vladimir Putin.
Is that why Rubio is not heading to London? Is he accompanying Witkoff to Moscow?
I can't speak for the Secretary of State's travel schedule. I'd defer you to the Department of State.
And then more broadly, just about the peace agreement, the talks that are ongoing. Secretary Rubio had said that if things don't go the right way, that the U.S. might need to take a step back. What does stepping back look like? Is that a step back from brokering peace, or would that imply a broader withdrawal from U.S. support for Ukraine and the war?
Look, I think it would be unwise for me to broadcast that from this podium. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, but he's made it very clear he wants to see peace, he wants to see this war end, and he wants to stop the killing on both sides of this war, and he's been very clear about that for quite some time, and he has grown frustrated with both sides of this war, and he's made that very known.
Caroline,
Brian.
thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Last week, the president talked about nonprofit groups, specifically taking on crew, and he hinted that there could be further actions taken against nonprofits. Does the White House have any plans for any sort of actions against NGOs, nonprofits, or other similar groups. Is any of that coming up? Is that being worked on at this time?
I'll have to check in with our policy team and get back to you. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Travis Gilmore with the Epoch Times. Are some colleges using taxpayer funds to further political agendas? And what is the administration's response to Harvard's lawsuit?
Sure. Well, the president has made it quite clear that it's Harvard who has put themselves in the position to lose their own funding by not obeying federal law. And we expect all colleges and universities who are receiving taxpayer funds to abide by federal law. It's quite simple. And the president made it clear he's not going to tolerate violations of federal law. He's not going to tolerate illegal harassment and violence towards Jewish American students or students of any faith on our campuses across the country. And so we will be responding to the lawsuit in court. And again, it's quite simple. If you want federal dollars, obey federal law.
And just to quickly follow up on China.
Well, the press secretary continues the briefing there at the White House. A little bit of news, scheduling news for the president that she just listed there as it ties into the big story of the week across the world. That would be the death of Pope Francis, as we give you a live look at St. Peter's Basilica there. Ceremonies continuing as they did at this time yesterday, sunset or so in the Vatican and within Italy there. President Trump will travel to Italy for the funeral of Pope Francis. He'll leave Friday morning, attend the funeral on Saturday, and then return to the United States Saturday evening once the services are over for the 88-year-old pontiff. While that continues, including the press briefing at the White House, we'll give you a live look outside of downtown Milwaukee on this Earth Day, a bit of everything. Some of the rain has passed through, and because of that, we'll be able to check in with our reporter, Christina Van Zelst, on the other side of this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk, covering the future of the Milwaukee Public Museum, and a beautiful shot there as construction, as you can see, continues amid the rain, amid the weather. We will check in with Christina and her photojournalist Tanner on the other side of this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh here at our Milwaukee studios, 1244 on this Tuesday. Happens to be Earth Day, as well as we'll give you another live look at downtown Milwaukee there. A mix of everything. We've had the clouds, we've had the rain, even a beautiful sunrise to get this day started here in Wisconsin. And we want to discuss the future of one of the great institutions here in our city, the Milwaukee Public Museum, as we'll bring in our reporter covering this story for us today, that would be Christina Van Zelst, joining us now on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Christina, great to have you here with us. I'm going to make sure I get your microphone up. Understand you, and maybe more specifically your photographer, just dealt with some of that rain, so thank you for playing with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Behind you and behind your umbrella is kind of the shell of what's to come. What are you covering today, and what can we already see behind you?
Yeah, hey Carl, I'm going to get out of the way because what you really want to see is that new construction site where the Milwaukee Public Museum is going to go. Luckily, we beat the rain this morning when we were actually inside the construction site. We got a tour of where things are at, and we're told it's about a third of the way done. One of the big messages that the construction site workers want people to know is, so they've got 4 floors completed. There will be one more level, so you can see where the columns stop there. There will be another roof above that. But what they said, they're gonna have the floors finished by this summer, and then next will be that exterior. So if you've seen the renderings, you'll know that it's a very unique building, and it's a stone exterior that's actually being sourced from a company in Germantown. And so the thing with building a museum like this is they don't want a lot of natural sunlight to get in to keep the exhibits safe. So that's been one of the problem-solving things we've heard from construction crews, is just making sure that that natural sunlight doesn't get in the building. But they also want people to know, if you're driving into Milwaukee and you start to see that exterior come up, it's not done. They made a big point to say there's still going to be a lot of interior work that'll be done once the walls go up. So even though it might look finished, it's still got about 1.5 years of interior work while they'll be doing the exhibit setup and making sure that that is all good on the inside. So that's one of the messages construction crews and museum coordinators were telling people, you know, if you're coming into the city, although it might look done, the plan is to have it fully complete by 2027. So about a third of the way done. You can still see crews working today, and they've got 4 floors so far set up. We did have a view on the highest level there and saw some of the concrete being poured. We also got a look inside where they're going to put the planetarium. So right now it's just a cutout hole. But we also learned that there'll be a cutout for drivers when you're coming in, that you'll be able to see sort of the dome shape of that planetarium, so you can see where that's going to go. Carl, it was really a unique experience to get to see sort of a third of the way into the process of construction and where things are at.
It was really cool to see the kind of skeleton there of what will be the home of the Milwaukee Public Museum for generations to come. And it kind of makes me think, Christina, right behind that shot there, of course, is Fiserv Forum. We just saw that get built in the mid-2010s or so and turn into this mecca for basketball here in Milwaukee, kind of a similar scene, a new generation of things. I know you've covered a lot of different facets of this story, certainly the construction that you're on today, but even some of the, just the scope and the scale of having to pack up and move all the exhibits from the old site to this new one. What struck you about the process of packing up and moving a museum and being able to create and open this new space for all of us to enjoy?
Yeah, I think it's just the timing of everything. And even talking with construction crews today, they said it's not a challenge, but it is sort of a problem-solving thing that they have to work through to make sure there's enough space at the new construction site for the exhibits. And then we talked with Madeline Anderson, who is the communications director over at the Public Museum, and she was telling us at the current museum site, they are working on packing away some of those items safely, and that's a long process. Everything over there is still business as usual except for the top floor. They have permanently closed that, so de-installed it to get it prepared to come over to the new museum, but that's because that's an area, Madeline said, does not have a lot of foot traffic. So they're really thinking about what people want to see and still being able to come over to the current site, which is just a couple blocks south of where we're standing now. But they have started that process. Everything over there, though, besides the mezzanine top floor, is still operational. I do know they've temporarily closed the Asia floor, but that's just temporarily. That will reopen. But just hearing about the process and how, you know, packing up these artifacts and then bringing them over to the new construction site and how thought out everything is, it's really interesting. And that's another thing construction crews were talking about, just building such a unique museum, right? A lot of these museums we heard they're old buildings that either get an extension, but you never hear about a full natural history museum being built. So being able to have a new one, and then also the crews, we're talking about how they'll be able to come back and visit for decades after it's done to say, hey, we helped build this. That's not always the case for a lot of construction workers. They build a hospital and don't necessarily go back and see the work that they did. So just a lot of uniqueness to this whole project, and really it's a really cool thing that Milwaukee is going to be able to see and just have that new natural history museum built like this.
Yeah, certainly. I can imagine for those people too, if they have kids, being able to bring their kids to the museum and say, hey, Mom and Dad, we kind of did this. So that's pretty cool, right? Last question for you. When it comes to just that thought that this will be a brand new building, what that offers the museum and offers guests, what do the museum officials seem most excited for when it comes to the space that we're seeing being constructed there, and how it will be kind of able to usher the museum into the modern times and be an available space for those decades to follow?
I think it's just that right there. I mean, also, if you look at where we're located, this is, if people are coming into the city, it's one of the first things you're going to see coming off the interstate. And being able to welcome people to Milwaukee with this brand new building, and it's such a unique structure. If you haven't seen it, we'll have links to the renderings at the story later today, but it's really cool, and just the uniqueness of it, I think, is awesome to greet people coming into Milwaukee with that right off the highway, and you see it and it catches your eye, and just having that new modern feel to the History Museum. You can tell the crews working out here are really proud. And actually, I wanted to mention this, I forgot this, Carl. They're doing a mock-up of the outside of the building. So Tanner, I'm gonna have you show kind of, it's the backside here, but they're practicing putting up that stone wall on the outside, that unique part right now. So there's a little mini version of it on the side here, closest to where we are. And I thought that was interesting just because of, you know, we keep saying it's a unique building, but they're actually practicing putting up a smaller version of it right here on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So crews can, yeah, so it's the backside, but you can kind of see a little bit of the stone on the side there.
I remember from the renderings, kind of has that look of like almost like waves of sand or kind of stone from different parts of the state that you might see as well. That's cool. We get a little taste of what the full thing will look like down the road. Very neat. Christina Vanzelis reporting for us on the construction update from the new Milwaukee Public Museum. Christina, thank you so much, and thank you to Tanner as well. Both of you guys working through the rain for us today, but giving us a little glimpse inside. You can look for her reporting later today on Fox Local as well as on Fox 6. Christina, thank you so much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, that is very cool to see. And yeah, trying to imagine for the many people working on that, it's a long process, like you said, or like we just heard. And even when the outside is done, if you've ever been part of a home renovation project, you know the bones may be the easy part. It's all the other stuff inside that takes forever and continues to push that project down. But what an operation there, building the future site of the Milwaukee Public Museum and trying to usher the museum into the future, into the present, into the future here in 2025. Interesting take, to say the least, here in downtown Milwaukee as we give you a bit of the changes to the skyline. That museum will greet people when you get off a couple of the exits from the interstate. You'll see Fiserv Forum. That was the new piece of construction. Of course, in the background of this shot, you're seeing the Northwestern Mutual building and many of the others that have gone up in more recent years in the Milwaukee Public Museum, soon to join that list, although plenty of work still to be done by those construction workers in downtown. We are going to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and once we come back, we will see what else we can find, whether it's from St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, where services continue in honor of the late Pope Francis, or from some of the briefings in other parts of the country when it comes to law enforcement and law enforcement operations around the country as well. We'll check back in on the other side of this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Happy Tuesday afternoon, everyone. Carl Deffenbaugh back here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, approaching 1 o'clock, and still a lot more to bring you over the next 35 minutes or so on this Tuesday afternoon. We're going to get an update from our reporter Durante Matthews down in Racine, construction renovations of a juvenile detention facility down there. Apparently it's construction season, as we just saw Christina's reporting from outside of the Milwaukee Public Museum site. The other thing that we are continuing to follow, of course, around the world would be the death of Pope Francis, and the services continue in the Vatican here. As I'll try to get a little bit of the audio for you, you can see the crowds gathering once again at St. Peter's Basilica there in the Vatican City. Another ceremony, as we saw around this time yesterday as well. The rosaries out for so many practicing Catholics there in honor of the late pontiff who died at 88, and his funeral service will be Saturday. We know President Donald Trump, one of the many world dignitaries traveling to that. He will begin to lie in state, lie in repose at St. Peter's Basilica. That is supposed to be tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Vatican, a chance for the public to walk through and see the late Pope Francis, who did pass away at the age of 88 Monday morning. The first pontiff from Latin America, the first Jesuit pontiff from the Catholic Church as well, and the first pope not from Europe in more than a millennia, going back to, I believe, the 700s or 800s as well. Now, while that continues from the Vatican on this Tuesday afternoon here in Wisconsin, we also want to take you out to the West Coast. There's something that just started moments ago. It is Earth Day, both here in Wisconsin and out there in California. This is San Diego, and an Earth Day news conference with lawmakers discussing the cleanup of some of the waters out there in the San Diego area near the border between the U.S. and Mexico. Let's listen in live.
How it gets done, as long as this crisis is over. With all due respect.
Excuse me, could you say what station you're from or what organization, please? Thank you.
So, what kind of funding is going to be needed on a yearly basis for maintenance? Will that be taken into what? Will it be thought about? Everything. We want everything part of the plan right now. We don't want any surprises, and we don't want to act naive and shocked when a few years from now we figure out that we didn't see that coming in 2025. We know that there's population growth in Tijuana. A plan is going to have a cost. Part of that cost is on the American side. A large part of that cost, Congress has already appropriated with the members of Congress leading that charge who are standing before you. O&M is something that came up frequently during our tour this morning, is making sure that O&M is there on both the American side and on the Mexican side. It is critical that that solution that's being put forth includes operations and maintenance, not just investing in the capital to build it, but making sure the funds are there to maintain it.
And two things you need to be aware of.
This is the EPA administrator there, Lee Zeldin, along with other officials, some lawmakers as well, discussing cleanup of the, let me get the body of water for you. The Tijuana River sewage crisis is the focus of this press conference here. Again, you're seeing some of the other officials there, and the man in the middle, the EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, who you just heard speaking. Let's get a little more.
Transparency on O&M. The second part, which I think the administrator is in the process of making sure is agreed from Mexico. Much of the operation and maintenance excess cost comes from the debris, the silt, the rocks, other activities that are coming into the water that destroy pumps prematurely. So there's both a prevention of excess O&M and a disclosure by the new head of our commission.
Yeah, and I want to say, and I can just add one other point, just so that we don't, create like, some type of international incident in what we are communicating. If there's another option that deals with sewage from Tijuana, All we care about on our side is that it does not reach our side. We just care that it does not cause Tijuana Valley degradation. We care that there are no more beach closures. We care that there's no more foul smells. We care that there's no more harm to public health. What we're saying is, if option A is not available to you for whatever reason, we don't care as long as you find an option B or an option C that makes this crisis go away.
And while the EPA administrator continues that discussion, cleanup in the Tijuana sewage area between the U.S. and Mexico there in San Diego, Southern California, of course, right butting up with the border with Mexico. We're going to take a short break. The EPA administrator speaking on Earth Day. This is how Earth Day looks here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You're seeing a beautiful different shade of light depending where you are, of course, from the sun, the clouds, and even some of those bands of rain in the background behind Potawatomi Hotel Casino there here in Milwaukee. On the other side of this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk, we'll take you down south to Racine and check in with our reporter, Durante Matthews, what's happening in Racine County on this Tuesday.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Deffenbaugh back with you on this Tuesday afternoon, 1:04 local time here at our Milwaukee studio for the Wisconsin Live Desk, taking you around the state, around the world as the news sees fit. This is another live look at St. Peter's Basilica. That ceremony for and service for the late Pope Francis just wrapped up at the Vatican, so you can see the people leaving St. Peter's Square there and the Basilica in the background. That will be where Pope Francis's body will be moved to. We're believed tomorrow is when the public viewing will begin for the late pontiff, who died Monday at the age of 88, and then funeral services being held Saturday at St. Peter's Basilica within Rome. It's always one of those interesting wording of things, right? It's Rome in the country of Italy, but the Vatican is its own entity nestled into that bustling metropolis of Rome. As we give you a live look around the area, another great shot there from the Marquette Interchange. You can see Potawatomi in the background, even some of those bands of rain in the background. It has been a dry and wet combo of an Earth Day here in Milwaukee, all while the EPA administrator continues to speak out on the West Coast. Let's get you back to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin speaking in San Diego, but about some issues affecting both the U.S. and Mexico when it comes to cleanup of the Tijuana Valley. Let's listen in.
Over the course of today's different events for multiple people, they feel like this request should have gone in, should have been granted, and your question should have already been in the rearview mirror. And it's something that's been presented to me from a few different people with quite a bit of passion and conviction as well. Yes. I'll get you next. We have almost no patience, and it's not out of being stubborn or lacking the right trait. It's because the Americans on our side of the border, who have been dealing with this for decades, are out of patience. There's no way that we are going to stand before the people of California and ask them to have more patience and just bear with all of us as we go through the next 10 or 20 or 30 years of being stuck in 12 feet of raw sewage and not getting anywhere. So we are all out of patience. There's a very limited opportunity where, in good faith, both on the American side and also on the Mexican side, what's being communicated by the new Mexican president is an intense desire to fully resolve this situation. And I love that that passion that it was advocated with last night. It's clear that the Mexican president and the U.S. president have gotten along in their conversations so far. So we hope that with the second half of patience, they could get it done. Yes.
That is the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin discussing some of the issues between the U.S. and Mexico when it comes to environmental efforts and apparently sewage that they are dealing with in the border between the U.S. and Mexico, some of it coming from Tijuana, but something that residents of Southern California have had to deal with as well. We are going to switch gears here on the Wisconsin Live Desk and get you back locally here. Hey, a shot of the Mitchell Boulevard camera there as I accidentally hit the wrong button, but traffic moving well on this Tuesday. That's good to see. Let's get you down south on the interstate system there. You take 94 south from us here in Milwaukee all the way down to Racine County, and that is where we find our Durante Matthews joining us today as we bring you in. Durante, hanging out with us from a new development here. Tell us what you're covering today and what this could mean for the people and specifically at-risk youth in Racine County. How are you?
I'm good, Carl. So today I am out here at the Jonathan Delagrave Youth Care and Development Center. This was really a passion project and a vision for Racine County's former county executive, Jonathan Delagrave. Here is his plaque right here. And essentially, this facility is supposed to open in early May. So all of the juveniles who are at the county's current detention center are going to be coming here. Now, one thing that I do want to show you is that this place, although in theory is a detention facility, it's not meant to look or feel like one. And that's one of the things that you notice when you first come in here. This is sort of the main lobby of it. And one thing that you notice is that it is very open. There's a lot of natural lighting and a lot of lighting here. And that's because one thing that Jonathan Delagrave was really passionate about when it came to at-risk youth is focus on a trauma-informed development and really supporting them to get them back into society. You know, I was speaking, actually I was on an hour-long tour not too long ago, and one of the things that they said to me is that a lot of the youth, you know, they already have their freedoms taken away when they go into a detention center, and coming here is supposed to be their punishment, but they don't want it to really feel like a punishment. So a lot of what we saw kind of really fit into that mold here. So I'm just going to give you a little walkthrough as much as I can to show you one of the major things that stood out for me when you come in here. So you see a lot of the places are kind of labeled, like right there was a vegetation areas. When you pass sort of through this hallway here, that's a spot for administrative. And this open area right here that I'm in right now, this is sort of the cafeteria area that I'm told. And if you look, this really does not give the feel of a detention center or anything like that. This looks more like a high school, if you will. So one of the benefits that the people here, administrators, told me about this facility is giving youth who come here the option of choosing. You know, they say a lot of their liberties and rights are already taken away, so they want to give them back a little bit of say in what they get. So they say in this cafeteria area, they'll actually have a say in what they eat, and, you know, what they are able to choose from during the day. And I'm going to turn around. So you'll notice that this place is still under construction a little bit, so there's still a lot of workers here. But this is a spot, in a sense, in which they'll eat. I'm told they have 48 beds in this facility, so 48 youth can stay here at a time. And looking out here, this was one of the other things that they said that's really helping when it comes to supporting the youth who are here and their mental health, is this main courtyard space out here. So they said there are a lot of programs that they can do out here, such as sports. There are spots where they can just go off to the side and just read and just, you know, sort of decompress and de-stress. There are grassy areas where they'll do a lot of vegetable planting in this sort of outspace area. And even if you look at the top of the buildings there, you'll know that it doesn't give the feel of, like I said, a detention center or a correctional facility. So there's no barbed wires or anything like that. They say, but they still are taking precautions with this facility. So they say they use technology like lasers to make sure, you know, no contraband or anything can be thrown over or into it. So there's still safety measures that they're taking, but essentially they want this to be mainly, like I said, a supportive area for youth. There are a lot of programs here that we went over, such as schooling, music classes, technology classes, even cooking. That was one thing that stood out to me, that they even offer cooking and things like that. So yeah, this is going to be a huge game changer, I'm told, in the area to help at-risk youth sort of reintegrate back into society in a more safe way. And this is expected to open in early May, Carl.
It is interesting, Durante. I mean, without you telling me what this place is, without me knowing what you were covering today, I would not have assumed that this is what we used to call a detention facility, right? Think of it like a youth jail or something. Some of the questions, even in the wording of what this is, right? Instead of detention facility, it's the Delagrave Youth Development and Care Center. What have you heard from the staff or maybe other people familiar with at-risk youth about the difference that can make in terms of getting people back into society as healthy contributors to that society when they have this version of an experience versus what we're probably more familiar with?
Because the other, from what I'm told, and I guess the standard or the traditional sense of a detention center, it's very institutionalized, it's very strict, you know, it's very routine, and they felt like that can sort of harden a youth in a way and not really give them a lot of motivation or support mentally that they need. But they say, you know, in facilities like this, where there is a lot of choice, there is a lot of free liberties that come with this, they say that sort of motivates youth a little bit more, and that also just helps them mentally, get them in a space to where they can feel supported, they can feel inspired. There are programs in here that they said where they even pair at-risk youth with mentors, people who have walked in their shoes before, people who have gone through the system and can just, you know, give them that sort of knowledge that they have had when they come out. So they said taking that sort of approach, which is more, not more soft, but more caring, if you will, that youth care aspect of it, that really helps, you know, give them the inspiration that they need to say, hey, I can go back into society, I can do better, and that is really what they were looking for with this facility.
It is interesting. I'm glad that you did mention the security aspects as well. Could you get into a little bit more of that? You mentioned the lasers, the look is different, but for people who live outside this facility, say, or in the community, how much reassurance can they have that this facility is still safe? The youth that are there for a certain reason, convicted of a crime or the like, are being both cared for but also protected and kept safe as well.
So there are some, when it comes to that security aspect, there are some measures that they're taking. I'm trying to see if there is one in this particular room that I can show you. It's not really in here, but so they have housing units sort of through this area down here, and a lot of those housing units, they do have certain security measures that they take, like a lot of the, actually I can show you right here. So like even, you'll notice that like even the doorknobs that they use are sort of different. It's very secure, and it still gives that that feel that, okay, yeah, they are here taking precautions, so people can't really make weapons out of certain things, or they can't really just roam around the place. Like at no point are the youth unmonitored. You know, there's always someone here sort of keeping them at bay a little bit. But yeah, they do take other measures when it comes to, like I said, how they're living, the living quarters, and I can't really get to that in a moment right now to show you that, unfortunately.
No, understandable. You've given us an amazing tour already with more to come, as this is Durante Matthews covering the new Delagrave Youth Development and Care Center in Racine County for us today on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And Durante will look for your full story this evening on Fox Local as well, with more of those images and the thought process behind what this can mean for at-risk youth and getting them back into society. Thank you very much. Good luck with the rest of your day and your reporting down there in Racine County. All right, and as we let Durante get back to it here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, another short break coming up. We've had construction of all kinds here, whether it's a youth facility like that, the new public museum, and much more. We'll see what we find for you on the other side of this break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Deffenbaugh with you on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Just about 10 minutes to go on today's program. taking you all the way from 12:30 to 1:30 here live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the news as it happens. And we have a couple things to check out over the next little bit of this program. While we have you, let's get you out to some of the two different press conferences happening right now. First, this is a cabinet meeting, a task force meeting, I should say, hosted by the Attorney General Pam Bondi and cabinet officials. That's who's speaking right now from the U.S. Department of Justice. But we want to get you first and foremost out to New York City, where the New York Mayor, Eric Adams, along with the border czar of the Trump administration, Tom Homan, are discussing the arrest and work to get the gang Tren de Aragua under wraps in New York City. Let's listen in to what Mayor Adams is discussing today.
Ecuador, because of the gangs that are in our country. Then they came here, and you know what they saw? They saw some of the same gang members and representations and symbols of gang members. Speaking to the police commissioner this morning, we are amazed that we've been able to keep down crime at the level that we have been able to, and it's because we prevented them with our law enforcement, federal partners in city and state. We prevented them from taking a stronghold and foothold in our city, and we're going to continue to do that. And as a former police officer, I was horrified and I was disgusted on January 27, 2024, when police officers, two NYPD police officers, were attacked in Times Square. That was a symbol of a total disregard for the law enforcement community of this country, not only of this city. The senseless assault on our officers kick-started the investigation we are talking about today. When I spoke with Chief Shell and Deputy Mayor Daughtry, who was an assistant commissioner at the time, I said, this can't happen in our city, and we need to find everyone that's responsible for it. Because if you attack the symbol of public safety, a man or woman who's wearing that police uniform, you're attacking the stability of our country. And I said, find them and send a strong message. And today, we found them, and we brought them to justice in the process. But this is just not about one incident. These gang members were trained to shoot and kill cops, trained to shoot and kill cops. But it's more than their training. They carried out the actions. We saw in 115th precinct on June 3rd, 2024, one officer was shot in his bulletproof vest and the other in the leg. He was already indicted. The shooter was already indicted for that shooting in Queens County and now faces additional federal charge. The 27 people in these incidents, these indictments are accused of unbelievable criminal behavior. And they have been charged with firearm offenses, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking conspiracy, alien importation conspiracy, and drug trafficking conspiracy. They were forcing women into sex trafficking, forcing them into sex trafficking. Thanks to this hard work of the NYPD, HSI, Violent Gang Task Force, and other federal partners, Tren de Aragua has never had a chance to take a foothold in this city. And because we have secured our border, we're seeing less come in with illegal activities into our city. The numbers don't lie, folks. The numbers don't lie. I know the side that I'm on. And each and every time they attempt to establish a presence in our city, we have taken them down. And we will continue to fight violent transnational crimes with the full force of the law. And in 2025 alone, we have taken down 5 long-term cases related to Tren de Aragua with 42 case subjects and more than 100 guns. This is just an example of what we were able to accomplish. In this specific indictment we are discussing today, case subjects are in custody, finally unable to do any more harm to our city and our nation. Now it's time to keep them incarcerated and not the revolving door system that we've witnessed, allowing them to come out over and over again, inflicting violence on our communities. Law enforcement is doing its job. That's one part of the criminal justice apparatus. The other aspects of the criminal justice apparatus, they must do their job, keep dangerous people off our streets after we take them off our streets. This case resulted in the seizure of 30 guns, just some more of the 1,600 illegal guns we removed off our street, more than 21 this year alone, and more than 21,400 since the beginning of our administration. As we have seen time and time again, violent criminals carrying illegal guns around New York City, they don't hesitate to use them, and oftentimes they're innocent people who are the victims of these shootings. Even during the day, with children are mere feet away from them, you see the continuation of the display of a total disregard for public safety on our street. Public safety has been our administration's top priority, and it's good to have partners in the federal agencies who are joining us in this priority on how important it is to keep our city safe. Because when we have broken down silos in intense and close collaboration with our law enforcement partners, it's the best way to rid the streets of the violent gangs. Our strategy continues to work. The first 3 months of this quarter, we witnessed the least amount of shootings in the recorded history of this city. And it's because we're taking dangerous people off the street like here. Breaking, shooting, and homicide records, making our city safe for 5 straight quarters of crime reduction is no accident. It is smart policing. And this is the results of leadership, strategy, and the hard work of our entire administration. We remain the safest big city in America because of that, as well as a haven for hard-working immigrants and their families who deserve safety and justice in this community. And I always say, we enforce criminal and immigration laws because that's what we will do. As Tom indicated, he's never asked the NYPD to enforce civil immigration. He asked them to be partners in dealing with the criminal investigation, and that is what we will continue to do. And today's takedown is a perfect example of why this is so important. These gangs prey on all kinds of victims, including immigrants. Who have often fled gang violence to seek safety for their families here in the U.S. We will not tolerate violent criminals wreaking havoc in our city no matter where you are from. And we will protect law-abiding New Yorkers no matter what. And I think what Tom stated is really going over the head of so many. He stated, let's go where the criminals are. If we are saying over and over again, you don't want ICE in schools, churches, you don't want ICE in places of employment in other areas, then collaborate to go where the criminals are. That's the goal that we want to accomplish as we continue to make our city safe. And I, again, want to thank our partners who have allowed us to do this. And as an American, and as a former member of the New York City Police Department, and as a nephew of an uncle who died protecting this country is for those who believe in our rule of law, our principles, and are here to provide a life for themselves. It is not a safe haven for criminal behavior. And it's time for all of us to ask the question, particularly those who are in government, that find it more convenient to have a tequila drink with someone who's a gang member. Which side are you on? I know the side I'm on. I'm on the side of law-abiding people who are in this country. I cannot thank you guys enough for the job that you've done. Let's continue to make this city the safest big city in America. Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. That is the mayor of New York, Eric Adams there, joining other enforcement representatives after announcements of charges against 12 different people currently or formerly associated with the designated foreign terrorist organization known as Tren de Aragua, a gang that originated in Venezuela and Peru but is operating around the world, including in New York City. Those people charged with murder, with shootings, with forcing women into human trafficking, as well as many other crimes. And that's the latest announcement from the mayor of New York and law enforcement agencies, including the United States Attorney's Office, the Southern District of New York. That's going to do it for us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk on this Tuesday afternoon. A reminder, we're here every day from 12:30 until 1:30 local time, taking you around the world, around our great city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin. The flag still at half staff because of the death of Pope Francis, as we end with a live look at St. Peter's Square, the Basilica there in the background at the Vatican. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow on the Wisconsin